A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and immense pride that I warmly welcome you to the 5th day of the Research Week, which is the Keynote Day and the Postgraduate Day. So Research Week 2025 is organized by the University of Moratuwa in collaboration with SLAS. And of course, Research Week 2025 is proudly led by the Faculty of Graduate Studies here at University of Moratuwa in collaboration with other 5 faculties, Faculty of Architecture, Business, Medicine, Engineering, and Information and Technology. So ladies and gentlemen, this year's Research Week theme is connecting academics, practitioners, and society from research labs to village roads. This year's research theme is more timely than ever. The devastating events of Detwa has reminded us how connected our lives to research, to science, to nature, to planning, and to decision making. And it has also reminded us as researchers what sort of a role that we have to play in this arena. As researchers, it is not only about finding gaps and providing solutions, but taking these solutions to the society where it truly matters. So for that to happen, we academics, practitioners, and the society should come together so that we would be able to take our research findings from the research labs to the village roads without confining it to somewhere else, as our research team says. So ladies and gentlemen, with that thought in mind, we also hold in quiet remembrance those who were lost during the recent natural disaster, and we extend our sincere thoughts and solidarity to every family and community affected. As we begin Research Week 2025, in collaboration with SLAS, with respect to our nation, and with the hope for a brighter, safer, and stronger future, let us all rise for our national anthem. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It has almost been 2 weeks since the Ditwa event remained us heartbroken. In remembrance of all the family members, friends, your neighbors, and every fellow Sri Lankan who lost on that day, may I kindly invite everyone to observe a 1 minute of silence for them. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your respectful observation. So before we move on with today's lineup, let me remind the financial pillars of the Research Week 2025 who made this event financially possible. So we thank all the sponsors for their financial assistance, which emphasize the importance of research. Specifically, we thank Incube Global Private Limited, our gold sponsor, Prima Wilma Private Limited, Mission Lanka Private Limited, and Tokyo Cement Group, our silver sponsors. Commercial Bank of Ceylon PLC, Elephant House, Windforce PLC, Logimec International Private Limited, and Pick Me, our bronze sponsors. We also acknowledge our food and beverage sponsors as well as our other sponsors of the Research Week 2025. We Research Week 2025 organizing committee truly appreciate their generous support. Now, let us take a quick look at the message of our gold sponsor, Incube Global Private Limited. Thank you very much. That was our gold sponsor. With that, we are moving on to the Research Week 2025 officially. Now, let me invite Professor Buddhika Jayasekara, Director Research of University of Moratuwa, to brief us on the Research Week 2025 and address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Our keynote speaker, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Deans of Faculties, colleagues, students. I will quickly go through the research at University of Moratuwa, what we are currently doing, and directions. This is our overall ecosystem. Research and development mainly happen in departments, faculties, research groups, multidisciplinary research centers, different labs. They are the main working places, and Office of Research, with the support of Senate Research Committee, supports funding, incentives, awards, and after research step, development, technology transfer, commercialization, is supported by the enterprise, that is the main body for the later stage. And research support, mainly library, analyze the research directions, our publications, support services, that is the main unit for support. And Faculty of Graduate Studies mainly handles the student matters and organizing events like Research Week. International relations, trying to link international bodies related to research. When it comes to Research Week, we have to appreciate our the chair for Research Week and the committee at Faculty of Graduate Studies, having a long list of items, events, starting from conferences, symposia related to faculties, Faculty of Architecture, FARU, ICITR from Information Technology, ERU Symposium from Engineering Faculty. This time, Research Week is in collaboration with SLAS, that add value and more collaboration, more participation from other state universities, other universities, industry in this year. In addition to conferences from medical, there are a lot of other vast range of events, workshops, discussions, keynote speakers, as in today to discuss, see possibilities of enhancing our research culture at University of Moratuwa. When it comes to currently ongoing research, this is only from the university-funded research. We are mainly focused on engineering, technology, and science, applied sciences. In addition to that, you can see cultural heritage. There is a considerable and segment, and sustainability, health, food sciences. In addition to that, alignments, we are mainly focused on technology innovation and the other areas like the sustainability, and these are 4 areas where we are mainly focusing on, but relating to all other SDGs, we are working on up to some level. This is the overall focus in thematic areas, but limited to based on projects funded by through Senate Research Committee. If you look at the research performances, we are happy to see, according to Simago institutional rankings, we have come up to top from the bottom in recent past based on data up to 2023. Hope we could continue the same. In addition to that, we have a good indication from World University rankings regarding the research setup or the culture we have or support services. We are better compared to all other setups in the university systems in Sri Lanka. And in addition to that, QS rankings, we appeared in 4,500 plus category. Therefore, according to international visibility and rankings, we are at a positive direction. If you look at the overall research and development process, all groups trying to move forward, enhance the research ecosystem. We are geared to a more collaborative ecosystem with enhanced participation. We have a big potential with our staff, students. We have to enhance the potential with better participation. And our research and development are focused on one aspect is international visibility and ranking. Other aspect is always we are linked to industry, solving existing industrial problems and national needs. And in some directions, we can lead the industry and national sectors moving forward to another step in different directions. And finally, teaching, learning process, we can get benefited from research. With that, I will wind up my quick overview of research and services at University of Moratuwa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's the time to ceremoniously launch the research digest as well as the compiled book of staff research performances. For that, I cordially invite Professor D.P. Chandrasekhara, Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa, accompanied by Professor Ruwan Gropura, Dean Faculty of Graduate Studies, onto the stage. Sir, please join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the Research Digest is a demonstration of the postgraduate and staff research as well as development conducts in year 2025. Most importantly, it is an illustration of the impactful contributions that we provide to our nation and worldwide multidisciplinary collaboration. To ceremoniously present the Research Digest, now I cordially invite Professor Virajini Karunaratne, accompanied by Dr. Jayani Sudhusingha, to present a copy of Research Digest 2025 to Deputy Vice Chancellor and Dean of Faculty of Graduate Studies. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we appreciate this with a round of applause? Thank you very much, Professor Virajini. Thank you very much, Dr. Sudhusingha. Sir, DVC sir and Gopura sir, please remain on stage for another appreciation. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are about to present the compiled book of staff research performances. So this is a collaboration between the Faculty of Graduate Studies, Office of Research of University of Moratuwa, as well as the Library of the University of Moratuwa. So this year's Staff Research Performance book highlights how the University of Moratuwa positions itself on the global stage, aligned with the Research Week theme. It presents key data and analytical insights across sustainable development goals, collaboration networks, global visibility, and overall research performance, showcasing our growing impact from laboratories to communities. To present this compiled book, I now cordially invite Assistant Librarian Dr. Nayani Gunawardana to present it ceremoniously to Deputy Vice Chancellor as well as the Dean, Faculty of Graduate Studies. Dr. Nayani Gunawardana will be representing the Faculty of Graduate Studies, Office of Research and Library of the University of Moratuwa. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, madam. Ladies and gentlemen, the Research Digest as well as this compiled book of research performances was a very daunting task, and the team behind this amazing effort put a lot of their thoughts and effort into it. So shall we give another round of applause appreciating their tremendous efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, now I cordially invite Professor Gayatri Ranatunga, Chairperson, Research Week 2025, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Good morning to all of you. Now I will introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Janaka de Silva. Professor Janaka de Silva is one of Sri Lanka's most distinguished physicians and academics. A Rhodes Scholar with DPhil from University of Oxford, he served as Dean and later as Professor Emeritus of Medicine at University of Kelaniya. His visionary leadership established the Faculty of Medicine, which is now among the country's leading medical institutions. As Director of Postgraduate Institute of Medicine at the University of Colombo, he strengthened postgraduate medical education and research governance. A fellow of both the Royal College of Physicians, London, and the National Academy of Science, Sri Lanka, he has published extensively in gastroenterology and hepatology, contributing to global medical knowledge. His enduring commitment to academic excellence, mentorship, and institutional development has earned him wide national and international recognition as an exemplary scholar and leader in medicine. I cordially invite Professor Janaka de Silva to deliver his quote. keynote speech. Thank you.
Good morning, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dean of Graduate Studies, other Deans of Faculties, students, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Gopura, thank you for inviting me to talk to you this morning. And as this is a research week, I thought it is entirely appropriate that I should talk on this topic of research and its effective communication, which is synergic with our introductory speaker, the graduate student who said that we have to take our research from the lab to the village. Ladies and gentlemen, the fundamental functions of universities are to disseminate and generate knowledge. Generating knowledge is by research, and reputable universities not only carry out research, but also produce researchers, schooling their students in scientific method. Now, learning scientific method, which is the most important thing that you learn when you do research, is a very important graduate attribute. Because in addition to enabling independent research, it also allows for critical evaluation of other people's research. And thus, it will assist informed and evidence-based decision-making, which ultimately improves our performance. So even if you don't do research after your PhD, as some of us do, at least you have learned methodology that will enable you to judge other people's research. Now, one of the ways in which development and progress of any country is judged is by how much knowledge it generates. Obvious examples are the USA, Western Europe, and closer to home, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and even China. The amount of new knowledge a country produces is assessed by its research output, measured mostly by publications and patents. And if you look at this scatter, the green, red, and yellows are all developed countries, and the blues are in South Asia and Africa. So you can argue that this is a chicken and egg situation. When you have money, you can do more research. It's not that you do more research and become developed. Whatever it is, the fact is stubborn. The more developed a country is, the more research it does, more knowledge it generates. Now, by any of these measures, Sri Lanka has yet to go beyond the international average. And despite our repeated aspirations to become a knowledge-based economy, there is general concern that the culture of research in our country is still not as healthy as it should be. It is better, but it can be even better. This is probably the result of the emphasis of decades of didactic teaching rather than self-learning in our universities, and of course, inadequate funding for research and development, which is a mere 0.2% of our GDP. So with some notable exceptions, research and development remains quite sluggish in many of our institutions. But there are grounds for optimism. For example, research is now given more prominence in university undergraduate curricula. We never had it when I was a medical student. Never. It is also a part now, a strong part of postgraduate courses. Research is assessed even when making professional appointments, including as consultant physicians in the teaching hospitals now, in the Ministry of Health, not only in academia. And our universities now have more stringent methods by which research is assessed for appointments and promotions. It could be better because there is a lot of plagiarism and publication in journals of ill repute, which we have to deal with. But in general, the promotion schemes are tighter than when I became a professor. Over the years, the number of index scientific publications has steadily increased, over threefold over the last 10 years. And although our output is comparatively low, the quality of our research, as measured by field-weighted citations, is on par with the best. Field-weighted citation index is a ratio of citations received by a country's research output to the average number of citations received for global output. So the average is 1. So if you are more than 1, you are better than the global average. And as you can see here, I didn't make a long, exhaustive list, but Sri Lanka is doing well. It is far ahead of our South Asian neighbors, and we are getting close to developed countries. So we don't do a lot, but what we do seems to be of a reasonably high quality. That's the message. Now, Sri Lanka has many strengths, because I hate this talk to be a depressing talk, right? So and we have many strengths, though we don't do much research. A pool of highly trained academics and professionals, many of whom who have been exposed to research at centers of excellence here and abroad, and many of whom who are convinced of the importance of research and are motivated to find solutions to local problems. But we also have weaknesses. There is still, by and large, a lack of self-confidence to undertake large-scale research projects. We'll be happy to do a survey or an audit rather than get involved in a large research project. There is an aversion to multidisciplinary research. This problem of ownership. Will my paper be taken by someone else? Will I be the first author? Will I be the last author? That still is there in a lot of faculties. And a very ill-conceived suspicion of interventional studies, especially in medical research. When you are dealing with children or when you are dealing with human beings, when we are doing trials of new medicines, there is always the accusations that we are experimenting on human beings. My answer to them is, without experimenting on human beings, how can we find something that is good or bad for human beings? These have to be overcome if we are to take or make a paradigm shift in our approach to research. From being small and solely descriptive, where we are only describing the problem, to a multidisciplinary and interventional level where attempts are actually made to solve the problem. Now, all of us here, I am sure, are convinced that there can be no progress without research. That's why we are here this morning. Freedom of thought is vital for original and innovative research. And while there can be no disagreement on this, in low and middle income countries like ours, maximum use should be made of the internal skills and the resources we have. And although we should tolerate failure, and there is always a risk of failure when you do original research, every effort should be made to prevent wasted effort and funds. So there is a bit of a rock and a hard place scenario, especially in lower middle income countries like ours. For this reason, researchers in countries like Sri Lanka should learn to adapt and prioritize. Do research that is feasible and relevant. so that a significant proportion of research is in areas where maximum economic and social benefits can be derived. For example, areas identified as priorities in the National Research and Development Framework, or even better, in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and I was very pleased to see that slide, Professor Domika, that you showed on that. So when I was a young graduate, and when someone said that you should do research that is feasible and relevant, I'm afraid as a Sinhala medium student who came to the universities, I couldn't understand what it meant. So in Sinhalese, for the students out there, what it means is, when you start doing a research project, answer 2 questions. Meka karanda puluwangda. Meka karla wadak tiyanawada. That is what you mean by feasibility and relevance. I hope that clears your mind as it cleared mine when someone explained to me in Sinhala that day. Now, while we are talking about not wasting funds and doing research that is feasible and relevant, this should only be done leaving room for original and innovative research ideas to be investigated. Because we have to remember that only a very small proportion of research findings have immediate applications and benefits. The relevance of most research becomes apparent much later. And let me emphasize this with an example from my own field, gastroenterology. In 1979, 2 scientists reported that they found bacteria in the stomach lining near stomach ulcers. And they suggested that it was the infection by these bacteria that caused the ulcers. The scientific community literally laughed at them. And the journal to which their finding was submitted, called The Lancet, accepted only to publish this report as a letter, not as a full paper. The finding subsequently revolutionized the way we treat stomach ulcers, and antibiotics are now routinely used to kill bacteria in order to cure the ulcers. And more than 25 years later, in 2005, the 2 Australian scientists who made the discovery, Barry Marshall and Robin Warren, were both awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology. So you can see how long it took from 1979 to 2005 for final recognition of an absolutely revolutionary study in medicine. So you must remember that not all research done has immediate benefit or relevance. And that's why original research should and must be allowed. Now, most, if not all, research is conducted in Sri Lanka using public funds. It's very little private funding. And so research must not only be of benefit to our people because we are using public funds, even if this may be in the long term, as I have shown, but many believe that the public has the right to know what the researchers are doing using their money. That is, in other words, researchers should be accountable to the public that is giving them the funds to do research. Now, this led to the idea of making research findings freely available, which was the basis of the open access journal concept, and giving public free access to research that we do. Now, giving the public free access to research findings is all good, but what real good would it do if the general public could not understand the research findings because of all the complicated terms, the equations and jargons that we use? To counter this, leading scientific journals now require what is called a lay summary, where authors of all research articles are requested to include a short non-technical summary of their work, presented simply, objectively, avoiding the use of complex scientific terms and statistical jargon to ensure that their findings are communicated effectively to the general audience. And if I may digress, because we are on time, when I applied for a scholarship in the UK, and I went for the interview, it was about my PhD thesis. I went with a lot of files in my hand. I was wearing my wedding suit, which was the only suit I owned at that time. And I went to this hall where there were 3 white people. I later learned they were all lords. And you can imagine, Sri Lankan, reasonably poor guy, completely intimidated by this situation. So I sat down, and this chairman said, "Young man, so you have applied for this scholarship to fund your PhD." So I said, "Yes, sir." And then there was this woman who was taking notes, the stenographer, Ekale stenographer. This is in 1989. And she looked at me and said, "This is Rebecca. I want you to explain your PhD in 5 minutes to her." That was my entire interview. So I had to explain to a stenographer in 5 minutes what I was going to do in the next 2 or 3 years. And now it has caught up. Now scientists are made to write lay summaries so that the general public can understand what we do. Therefore, the way we plan, perform, and disseminate research is evolving. And while we must continue our efforts to build a robust research tradition in this country, we should remember that when public money is used to fund research, the public should benefit from it, is entitled to have free access to the research findings, and be able to understand why and what we did, what we found, and what those findings mean. It is then we can expect to receive their support, which is so vital to convince elected governments to better fund our research and development. Because if the public feels that these people in isolated buildings are doing things that are of no relevance to us, we can't understand what they're doing, they're not going to support funding. And you must remember that government comes from the people, and they have to be convinced of what we are doing. What we are doing is important if we have to expect more funding. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this short time, I hope I have been able to convince you of the importance of research and the value of learning scientific method, adapting to a resource-limited setting by prioritizing research that is feasible and relevant, and being able to communicate research findings effectively, not only to the other researchers, but also to the general public. And to the young postgraduate students and undergraduates, I want to end by emphasizing that you must never feel uneasy about doing research, nor should you be afraid of failing, because failure is not uncommon in research. And as Albert Einstein once said, if we all knew exactly what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that amazing speech, amazing keynote, one keynote to be remembered. Thank you very much for motivating our undergraduates and emphasizing the role of a researcher too at your keynote. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we give another round of applause to our keynote speaker for the day? So thank you, sir, very much for gracing the audience with your presence. And as Research Week 2025 organizing committee, we would like to appreciate your presence with a small token of appreciation. So we would like to invite you once again to the stage. And to present the token of appreciation, we would also like to invite Professor D.P. Chandrasekhara, Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Moratuwa, accompanied by Senior Professor Ruwan Gopura, Dean Faculty of Graduate Studies, to present the token of appreciation to our dear keynote speaker for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Now, let us take a quick look at the messages from our silver sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our silver sponsors for the Research Week 2025. We appreciate their financial support, which made this event once again financially possible. So ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for a short break, but before that, let me remind what are the sessions that we have. Right after the break, we have the 3MT competition, and then we have the research methodology session. We have a research launch and fireside chat and many more events coming up today. It's a very busy day for the Research Week as well as a happening day. So we invite everyone to remain with us throughout the day and enjoy, learn, and engage with all the activities that we are presenting here at Research Week 2025, University of Moratuwa in collaboration with SLUS. So ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short break.